You sinners and saints, you beautiful, blasphemous people. Welcome back to A Raging Atheist. And sadly, um, last minute, PigPuncher had to pull out family stuff going on. And we are rescheduling. PigPuncher will be coming on the channel to have a discussion. But very last moment, something happened about 15 minutes ago. And that's how it happens sometimes. It happened with me and Neil today. We are rescheduling my deconversion story. Shit comes up, life happens, and hopefully, PigPuncher will get everything worked out and we'll be able to reschedule. And all my wishes to PigPuncher and to what's going on with him right now. But the show must go on. And me and Allie are here. I only scheduled the one big guest because I really wanted to focus on PigPuncher and let PigPuncher have a political discussion with myself. But now I think we're going to have an open room. So anybody that wants to come in, at me, at Aaliyah Kai, Allie.
Wow, you mispronounced my name.
I know,
Shame on you.
Yeah, I know. I'm terrible with pronunciation. It's always a possibility. I might pronounce my own name wrong sometimes.
Nakasuki.
yeah. Joe gets in my head and I'll be like Nakasuchi or Nakasushi. But so yeah, that life goes on. We're still going to talk about the Kurds. Anybody that wants to come and talk about if anybody would like to defend Donald Trump's actions when it comes to northern Syria, I would love to have you on. Can't promise how it will go. I'm in a loose kind of mood, but open room. I am still going to be filming with Utah Outcast this Saturday evening. So look for that next week, I believe. Really looking forward to that. I've been talking to X for quite a while. X has been on the stream a couple times. We have DM'd on Twitter quite a bit. This will be my first time actually meeting Felicia and Kyle, so I am super excited about that. And I'm gonna have to stay up super late to record with them because they're West Coast and they record late, even for that. So I am prepared. I am ready. I think we're probably going to talk a little bit about Matt Powell. I just have a suspicion. But with that being said, open room at me. Anybody can come on. We got 4 spots.
We've already got 2 volunteers. All right,
good. What? So yeah, we'll send out a couple links and we'll start. I'll let Allie get into her thing as I send out some links. So yeah, just who's our victims, Allie?
It looks like Air and my buddy Rilla, who is like a big fan of Sticks and Stonehenge, who's always in our chats. Both of them have volunteered to come on and have a chat. Air says that she doesn't know all that much about the topic, apart from just sort of the backlash around Trump. So this is an interesting, because you and I have both been doing research on this for some time in preparation for Pig coming. So this will be an interesting educational conversation. But Rilla says that she's interested in talking as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll send out some links. I'll let you send out the link to your friend, and I'll send the link to AR.
Wait, I just sent the link to AR as well.
I don't have Discord open, so yeah, good job.
Hey, this is the reason I was muted, to make damn sure, but... So again, Hannibal, apologies. I know that you're in both of our fan bases, and like, I am so sorry that this happened, but Pig had a personal emergency that sort of came up, and so he ended up having to reschedule, and he was really bummed out about it, but we're going to work on getting him on again. Apologies to the chat for my accent. I had some personal shit of my own to deal with, and I'm stuck in it, so it's a weird mix, and you guys are going to have to deal with it, and I apologize. But there should be people in the back room pretty damn soon. Also, I think we might end up having to conflict with Hammered Out in a little bit, because Ocean said that he was going to be on that pretty soon.
Yeah, so we're only going to keep this to about an hour, a little bit. I was going to have a return to an after show on Discord, but since PigPuncher isn't here tonight, we'll probably postpone that till next week. And I think next week hopefully will be Monday, but we'll see. I'm trying to work it out, but hopefully the show will actually be moving back to Monday, and that'll be a consistent thing. I'm trying to work that out right now, and I'm thinking actually about a consistent theme for the show that will tie into kind of what we do, and then it will be a good argument against the freaking people that say, "Oh, there's not Christians on this panel talking about this subject," because there doesn't always have to be. I'm an atheist. I put out atheist content. I don't put out Christian content, and I don't need their fucking opinions. So yeah.
Well, and besides that, like, we've never been unfair to the theists that come on here. Like, at the very least, when I've been moderating, I've done my best not to let anybody dogpile.
And we'll continue to do so. But I'm just saying, like, you know, those times, like, if we're having a conversation and, oh, there's not a Christian in that room talking about this topic, like, there doesn't have to be. Like, this isn't just this is skeptic content. This isn't designed for Christians to come here and have a good time. In fact, like, it's hard to get Christians to come here because they're not going to have all that good of a time. So, and that's even with moderation. It's not because, like, I've come to the conclusion it's not necessarily because we gang up on them. It's just that their worldview is shit, and it's hard for them to defend it. So only the worst can, because only the worst people are going to straight up lie to your face. Cough, cough, Jill. So yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. But I'm looking forward to this discussion because like you said, me and you, we know a little bit about Syria, so this should be very illuminating.
By the way, welcome from the back room.
Hi! Can you guys see and hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you. We can't see you. It looks like it's black on my screen for the camera.
It's black.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Okay, well, we can hear you. You can actually click the link that says, turn cam off and upload some sort of picture if you want to.
I'm afraid I might break it. Pagans and tech and all that.
That's fair. There's 2 pagans on tonight, so the tech curse is doubly risky.
Yes. I have it flipped so that you guys are just looking at, like, the back of my phone screen, so hopefully that will be good. My house is a bit of a mess because disabled people and being able to clean on a regular basis, and so my house is a bit of a disarray right now. So I don't want y'all to see that.
So by the way, Naka, Rilla, Naka.
Nice to meet you, Naka.
Yep, very nice to meet you.
Rilla is a wonderful fan of Sticks and Stonehenge and a very, very active member of our Discord, and a good friend of the show and of us.
Yeah, welcome. Looking forward to getting into the conversation tonight. I have crappy headphones on, so I'm not going to get into the details. I'm not going to point fingers at my daughter, or none of that. But I have crappy headphones on.
So you're not saying that this happened, but
yeah, I'm not pointing fingers.
By the way, is AR in the back room yet? Because I did send her the link.
Not yet. Not yet.
So I guess I'll do my moderated sort of opening. We're going to be talking about the Kurd situation in Syria and Turkey because they're kind of being attacked on both sides. They're a religious and ethnic minority that spans 4 different countries. They were promised a country of their own, Kurdistan, in the 1920s and 30s. And they helped America a great deal. Hey, it's AR, and we...
Ryla dropped?
Yeah, we did.
I figured out how to get back in.
We're getting an echo off of you, by the way, AR.
Yeah, sorry. My phone was still playing the audio. I just turned it off.
Oh, thank you. So what they helped us out in fighting ISIS. We're still getting an echo, it seems. Did you turn it off?
Yep. I don't know why you
Hang on a second. Echo. That might be me. Let me back out and come back in again.
Let me mute and see if that helps.
Okay. All right, let's see.
Test?
Yeah, that's definitely the echoes coming from AR, or it was, because muting made it stop.
Echoey?
I can hear myself a little bit, just barely, in the background. It might be your mic might be picking up your headphones. I don't know.
I think she sounds fine.
Okay. Well, we were talking about...
I got crappy headphones on.
The Kurds fought on the front lines for us in helping combat ISIS in the territories that they controlled. And we convinced them to actually move back a lot of their fortifications against Turkey, because Turkey had this big, massive army sort of on the border of Kurdish-controlled territory. And the Kurds were relying on US troops to protect them. And what ended up happening was that after Trump withdrew the troops, Turkey marched their armies into Kurdish-controlled territory, and there has been fighting since. And Syria has also been emboldened to try to kill off the Kurdish minority, which the Kurds traditionally, in their territories, have actually had a lot more secular morals than, the surrounding area. They're far more, they have far more, say, neutral schooling, and they also believe in the concept of the people of the book. So people, Jewish and Christian folks, they have similar rights, women don't have to wear the hijab if they don't want to, or any other form of sort of head covering. There's a lot more equality and a lot more democracy in those areas, and that's about to get wiped to hell because these various armies want to kill them off. So with that, I will open up the panel for our two guests to introduce themselves and to give a statement if they've been following the story at all about what they think about it. So Air, you're directly to my right, so I guess you get to go first.
I am the content creator formerly known as the Atheist Rationale. I no longer have a channel. I just pop into live streams now just for fun. Funsies, all that good stuff. The whole thing going on right now in Syria, that's... quite a kerfuffle, if that's an accurate word. Oh god, it's so much worse than that. Fucking what? Trump was saying that he wanted to bring the troops home, but it turns out he sent them over to Saudi Arabia at for what? He sent the troops. The Saudis bought the troops, and then Trump sent the troops to Saudi Arabia. This is also allowed part of the government there to go into Kurdish territory, not only release ISIS, but also cause a genocide. Obviously, I'm not cool with that kind of shit. I don't know if there's much else I can say. I can't say that I'm super researched in this area yet, but I've got opinions, so I'm here.
Opinions are welcome. What's up,
also,
Shay?
Impeach the motherfucker.
Impeach the motherfucker.
All right, so Rilla, would you like to introduce yourself? I know I gave you a bit of a glowing recommendation. You've been a very, very wonderful friend to the channel and to all of us over at Sticks and Stone.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I'm Rilla. I'm going to apologize now if I start stuttering. If I do, I will mute myself. My bailiwick is more disabled rights than this, but as the daughter of two veterans, no, this is bad touch. No. As the daughter of two veterans, both of whom are just looking at this going... I have family who are staunch Trump supporters who are very silent on this matter because they can't deal with this, so that tells me all I need to know there. This is just absolutely horrible. Let's see.
I will open up the room, Nock, if you want to. You and I were talking quite a bit before the stream, so if you want to talk about some of the things that you'd suggested. We've also got a person in the chat who says that they fought alongside with the Kurds, who said that they'd like to come in. So I was about to try to find some way to have them get into contact with one of us.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool if they can come in, honestly.
Yeah, welcome. More than welcome. I don't think anybody here has been over there. I'm fairly familiar with Syria, but would love to hear the perspective of somebody that's been there.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. That'd be a great addition to the show. I just sent a message saying DM either of us on Discord or Twitter, and we'll get you a link.
Yep, or email me at theragingatheist.com or theragingatheist@gmail.com. DARagingAtheist. Or Twitter's usually the easiest way. So let me throw that on there. And then that's a weird thing that's happening. But we'll see if that worked.
So Nock is just trying to be a bit relaxed because this topic pisses us both off exponentially just because of the horrors of what's going on over there. There have already been thousands killed, and thousands of the Kurds have already died helping us out with ISIS. It is fucking disgusting what Trump has done.
We stabbed them in the back. Well, Trump did. This is
I
fucked
mean,
up.
that reflects on the whole US, right? He's supposed to be like the leadership of the US. Like, we have sent the message to the world that nobody can rely on the United States for anything, effectively. That we will use you and fucking discourage you.
Well, and so this has been going on basically since before the 2016 election. So, Trump did actually use this as part of a strategy against Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton had a very strong strategy to go into Syria. She wanted to end the war in Syria, and the only way you really end the war in Syria is winning the fucking war in Syria. Of the many issues I had with Hillary Clinton, it wasn't her strategy in Syria or the fear mongering of the neoliberals who want endless war, talking about how she was going to start World War III.
What was it? A no-fly zone is what she was preaching.
Yeah, she was a strict no-fly zone, which the Russians would be subject to. And like with the Russians, we're in a fucking Cold War with Russia again. Everybody needs to start fucking admitting it. And
have we ever stopped proxy wars with Russia? Let's just be honest.
I think we had like a 5-year period when we first when democracy first came to Russia, that we had some good graces, but democracy quickly failed in Russia. We are in a fucking Cold War with them again. We have to show strength. Russia doesn't want to be in a hot war with us. And this is exactly why they spent so much fucking money and resources in getting Donald Trump elected. And he has done nothing but cater to their every fucking need in every situation that he can. What he has done here has handed Russia Syria on a fucking silver plate. And Russia is very important, not just because there's been a war going on there for 8 years, but because Russia wants an oil pipeline through Syria. And Russia wants that really fucking badly. And we just fucking handed that to them, which means we just handed Russia more economic security, as well as we handed Assad Syria again. And we can talk about the chemical warfare that Assad has used. We can talk about the terrorist tactics. We can talk about the fucking inhumane war tactics he has used in this war. We can talk about how the Kurds have fucking
pretty
much ISIS.
Russia.
So, Nock, I know that you're on a roll, but I think for folks who aren't really all that familiar with this particular topic, do you want to go into the history of the conflict and the history of sort of who the Kurds are and like the way that their society was run and why there is a conflict between these 4 countries that they sort of exist within on the edges of? Because I think that's central to this discussion.
A little history would probably be appropriate. I think before...
Hey, look, we've got John Peterson in the chat. Hello, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, what's up, John?
Looks like we have a Jill clone in the chat, too. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
usually.
I
think the most important thing about this conversation going forward is realizing that
We'll have fun.
We have to, me as a leftist, so I am very anti-war. When I first started hearing about this, it was very hard for me to be critical of Trump in regards to this, because I have often advocated to pull out of Syria no matter what. I've often advocated to pull out of all the overseas wars no matter what. And that was basically an argument out of ignorance. And once you really start to study the different dynamics of this Syrian war that's been going on for 8 years, and we'll let Ali really fill you guys in on the history. This is a war that by actually being there, we were saving lives. And now by not being there, we're actually costing lives and handing the war to our enemies instead of to our allies. So yeah, go ahead, Ali.
So a bunch of this information I've taken from various articles and things online. I actually posted one of them from the BBC in the chat over there. So the Kurds are an ethnic minority that that exist within majority Turkey, Iran, and Iraq, but also pieces in Syria and Armenia. They were originally promised a state after World War I with the Treaty of Sevres. But 3 years later, during the Treaty of Lausanne, which set boundaries of modern Turkey, it made no provision for Kurdistan, which was going to become their homeland. So ever since then, they've been stuck, basically, as this sort of, like, they're a loose conglomerate of ethnic and religious minorities that exist within these sort of borders, and they control various territory, and they are mostly self-governing, but the countries that they exist within don't like that very much, particularly not Syria and Turkey. Turkey considers them to be, quote, mountain Turks, and refuses to acknowledge them, like, as a minority at all. Syria wants to wipe them out and give their territory to Arabs and Arabize the area. Part of the reason that they have this problem is because their education, as I mentioned, is secular. They have a lot more religious tolerance for other folks, like that practice other religions. There was actually an anarchist commune that functioned entirely with direct democracy that existed within Kurdish territory and ran quite healthily for some time. That was wiped out by...
Fosh did a stream about that, right?
Yeah, it was wiped out by Turkish troops.
Rojava?
Rojava, yeah.
I didn't know that happened to Rojava.
All right, I got an email from Big C. I'm going to send him the link now. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There was a lot of people in Rojava that were doing some pretty amazing things based on that interview that I watched on Vosh's channel a while back.
Well, yeah, and like actually, a lot of the troops that Syria and Turkey both label as being terrorist organizations were the ones that were working with us. YKK, I think, is the group in particular. But they were on the front lines fighting ISIS, and without them, we would not have rooted out the majority of ISIS-controlled territory in Syria and Turkey. Like, we would not have been able to do it. And they were warning us that they were still sleeper cells. They had over 1,000 folks, like over 1,000 prisoners of war from like ISIS fighters that they were holding. And when Trump withdrew the troops, like that were protecting them after encouraging them to sort of scale back their defenses, he effectively left them wide open for a massive attack. He betrayed people that have been fighting on the front lines for us for some time.
Yeah, I think it was more than
propaganda from Syria.
I think the pictures and the videos that I've been watching today, I mean, I've seen thousands of ISIS women locked in pens in northern Syria and Kurdish land. When it came to the actual prisoners of war, I think we're talking thousands of male prisoners of war in pens that were in Kurdish territory in northern Syria. So we're basically talking pretty much like the living force of the defeated ISIS army of Syria, the Caliphate of Syria, was in Kurdish lands because not only the U.S. but the rest of the Western allies refused to take those prisoners. We left them there to be cared for by the Kurds, who were begging us to take our prisoners of war. And now we're allowing Turkey to set them free.
Well, yeah, because they're being overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's quite atrocious what's happening. I mean, if ISIS was nearly defeated, they've just been reboosted, in my opinion. I'm really, waiting to hear about from the person that's going to come in that's actually been there, to see what they have to say. But from what I'm seeing, there's not much good about this. But here we go. What's up, Big C?
Hi.
Hey, welcome to the chat. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a moment to get everything set up.
Are you with us, Big C?
I thought I heard them say something just a second ago.
We're not hearing everything. If you're having audio issues, you need to make sure that StreamYard is clear to use your microphone and camera. Even if you don't want the camera on, you can actually turn it off with the start cam button at the bottom. But you need to clear them both, or else it won't function.
Nope, they just.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yep.
We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Sweet. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Oh, right. Thanks for having me.
So you said that you had fought alongside the Kurds. We're very curious about your perspective.
When you talk about the Kurds are one of our biggest allies in the Middle East, real allies. They don't get a lot from us like Saudi does or Kuwait. the Kuwait and Saudi and the Qatar, they get quite a bit from us. But this goes way back. I'm really far back. But in the first Gulf War, the Kurds were actually at the northern of Iraq.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they were a blockade basically for the troops not able to leave from Iraq into Turkey, into at the time Syria. You know, they were keeping it pretty well. After we won the war, and we didn't go into Baghdad, I was with the 1st and 2nd ACR at the time. After we did that, and we stopped at the border, Bush stopped us at the border, if y'all remember. So we didn't go into Iraq itself. We left Saddam in power. But our defense department made a deal with the Kurds and said that if they would try to overthrow Saddam and take over the government, we would have their back. We didn't. They tried, and they were Saddam Hussein actually launched chemical weapons against them, mustard gas.
He butchered them.
And they lost 300,000 plus. This is the same type. What Trump is doing right now is the same thing that happened with Al Qaeda in Afghanistan after the Russians left.
Yeah, and what's important about what you're speaking about right now is we betrayed those Kurds and they were butchered, and yet they forgave us. And they were the ones, like when you know, the second Iraq war, when you see the pictures of the statue of Saddam Hussein coming down, guess who was pulling that statue down? It was the Kurds. They were waiting for us with open arms once again.
Let me say this so that I don't want to be emotional about it, but I want to give everybody a sense of what it's like.
Big C,
So
you're perfectly welcome to be emotional. Like, we've done streams tackling mental health topics here. We actually just did one on trans panic and, like, had a moment of silence for people who were lost. So, like, if you get emotional, if you get angry or sad or anything, you're in a safe place for that. Like, we're perfectly accepting of such things.
Well, let me put this into perspective of what it's like for the Kurds and the soldiers that are there now. Most of the soldiers that we have there right now are either special forces, they're either airborne rangers, and most of them are going to have the MOS of 13 Foxtrot, which are forward observers. So they call for fire from artilleries, from the A-10 Warhogs, you know, from the F-16s to the F-15s, F-18s. They lay down artillery. What our soldiers and the Kurd soldiers are going through right now, as if you had a neighbor that you knew your whole life, and when he needed you and somebody was killing him, you turned your back and walked away. That's what this is.
Oh, absolutely. It is a betrayal at the highest level, especially because from what I read, didn't Trump help convince them to remove their blockades right there on the border with Turkey? Like, they were heavily fortified there, and he assured them protection, and then, like, within a couple months withdrew his troops.
Yes. Trump has no idea. Remember, this is a man, or I hate to say man, but this is a person that has 5 deferments. 5 deferments. That means that when his country needed him, he said, fuck you.
Yeah, he got his dad to pay to get him out of that. Bone spurs.
Bone spurs. Yes.
Oh my God.
But he can play golf 150 fucking days while he's in office. He is. Yeah. He's destroying our reputation. He is destroying our allies. The people that we used to have some respect, and he's killing it.
Yeah, and I was telling Allie before the stream, like, he's killing the Republican Party. You know, the Republican Party stands for 2 things: they're family values, and they are defense. And when you start to go against defense, when you start to be willy-nilly with your war strategy, when you're not strong, when you seem to be running away, and then when you abandon the allies that just pretty much defeated ISIS in Syria, our enemy right now. That is the fraction in the Republican Party that, I mean, this impeachment process needs to move forward. This president's dangerous, don't get me wrong. But what he did here in Syria, what he is doing by moving these troops to Saudi Arabia, like AR pointed out earlier, because, his excuse is, I made a campaign promise to bring the troops home. You didn't bring them home. You sent them to Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia paid you to send them there.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, what are they doing there? Are they now participating in the?
He told Nancy Pelosi straight to her face that they paid him.
To
be there.
Yeah, he literally told the Speaker of the House that Saudi Arabia paid him to have those troops there, so he pulled them out of fucking Syria. And it's quite disgusting.
That's a fucking lie.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not even close. He doesn't have that kind of power. The funny part is, and please,
and that's the thing about Trump is everything that comes out of his mouth is a fucking lie. Everything.
Knock, let Big C, please.
Go ahead, please.
Answer, please.
The younger ones, listeners that are here right now, this is what your future is. This is what my kids' future is, and my grandkids. I'm 50. I've done pretty much what I'm going to do. I've got other issues I have to deal with. But your future and your security is completely being blown away. Kurdish soldiers kill ISIS. Turkish soldiers do not. They need the fear in the country. If you think 9/11 was bad, what do you do when you have 3 countries that are back to back that have the power to be able to do stupid fucking shit with?
Well, and the ideology of the caliphate is dangerous. So the ideology of the caliphate is worldwide. The world eventually will be under the caliphate of Islam. That's the very extreme thinking of these fundamental Muslims. And so when you allow these extremists a second breath, I mean, they don't play by our rules. We have the Geneva Convention. We have rules of engagement.
We don't play from those.
I'm sure we don't play by those anymore, especially now. but we pretend to anyway. They don't even pretend. They're just going to cut your head off. So it's when you give that another breath, especially in Syria, which the situation, I mean, you know more about it than I do. The situation is by no means stable to pull our troops out by any means of the standard.
No, we've had some of those bases in northern Iraq and in southern Turkey for 30 years. Those bases and those OP with our brothers and sisters died for that. Our fathers, they died for that. And Trump single-handedly walked out. He gave away something that Americans gave their lives for.
So, Big C, I'm curious, because it seems that, at the very least, you don't approve of the current administration. Like, I'm not going to presume to know your politics, but I'm actually interested. Would you say that what it looks like Trump is doing is cozying up to folks that he feels he might have some sort of personal relationship and trying to benefit them specifically, rather than considering the interests of the nation as a whole? Because that's what it looks like to me. Like, people talk about Trump running America as a business, and anybody who's ever been a business owner knows that, like, networking and personal contacts are like key. You do your best to benefit those who try to help you, right? Scratch my back, I scratch yours. You saw that with the exchange that he tried to do not too long ago that got him potentially may get him potentially impeached. So I'm curious if you feel like that might be a motivation.
Some of it, but I also believe that a lot of it is he loves the chaos. If he can continue to use words like them and they, and words like ISIS, then his anger and his fear mongering continues to work. And if we're not educated and we don't take the time to figure out what we need to and what we need to know about this piece of shit and his administration, then we're bound to repeat it he'll be reelected in 2020, and who knows how far he'll go then. That's scary as hell.
Well,
yeah, I think that's the scariest thing, and I
Um,
kind of pointed that out with my last video, my
Um,
last edited video.
Knock,
When this
I
dude
think-
is reelected, he's going after everybody. He's going to have a mandate to lock up his political opponents, journalists he disagrees with, it all the way down to me with 2,000 subs. You know, when he locks up everybody else, it'll be me. You know, like it's crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
Rilla wanted to speak.
part of this comes from voting in a TV personality. I hate to say it.
Agreed.
I mean, we get what we got.
He's a poor
This is-
person's idea of a rich person, really.
This is what he knows how to do, and he does it well. He makes a spectacle of himself.
By the way, AR, can you please mute when you're not speaking? We are still getting the echo. I know that no can't hear it, but I can, and it's messing with my brain.
Yeah, I have really crappy headphones.
Sorry.
Oh, it's no
Um,
problem. Just like most of us are keeping muted when we're not talking. I'm just asking you to do the same. Anyway, continue, Rilla.
This is something that Trump knows how to do, and he knows how to do well. Is he knows how to make a spectacle of himself. This is why he does the Twitter rants 24/7. It's because, and if you'll notice, people are just so jaded by it. Nobody even notices anymore. It's just like, oh, what's the latest insanity? Oh, he did this. And if you notice, this is stuff that if any other president, be it Democrat, Libertarian, Republican, any other president in our history had pulled some of the stunts he has to date. I mean, pick any of them. People would have lost their minds. But because he's been doing the boil the frog in the pot, we're just so jaded by now, which is like, yeah, that's Trump, and we move on with our lives.
Well, and when you're in the sort of business, like when you're in the drama business, which is really what Trump is in, like any
Mhm.
press is good press.
Yep.
AR, you're welcome to speak up. Like I just asked you to keep muted when you weren't talking. That's all.
Yeah, real quick before Shay jumps in,
See,
I don't believe in coincidence. Like this whole withdrawal thing coming in the wake of it, impeachment hearings. Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence. Go ahead, Shay.
Presidents who come into like incumbents that come into an election season in a war are more likely to be re-elected. I'm sure his campaign officials have told him that.
I don't know how old y'all are, but I don't know if y'all remember when Clinton was being impeached. They basically the same type of thing happened in Bosnia, I believe. And there was actually a movie that was put out called Wag the Dog. And that's where you try to make a different storyline.
Yep,
The problem
I remember that.
is that I always look at what is the end goal. What is your end goal? What's his end goal to be able to do?
Do you mind if I put a pin on that really quick, because we both talked over AR and I want to give her a chance to speak and then we can come back to it. AR?
Yeah, so the only reason I type in like the private chat there is because it's a lot easier for me to like write out what I want to say and then say it. I get a lot less tangential if I do that. And
that's perfectly fine. I saw that pop up and I'm like, okay, Shay wants to talk. I'll make sure she gets to.
Honestly, I'm seeing this as like a problem with capitalism. If you've been following me for a little while, you know, like I've been pulling more and more towards like ending capitalism and instilling some form of like socialism. I see a lot of what Trump's been doing over the last few years only supporting like his bank account and the bank account of like other wealthy people. Everything is about putting money in the hands of the rich, basically. The tax cuts, deregulating the market, pulling out of the Paris Climate Accords. He doesn't give a shit about anything, like I said, except for his and his friends' bank accounts.
Wait,
And
Bernie
I feel
nailed it. Real quick, Bernie nailed it in the last debate. What you're talking about right now. He was like, he didn't mention pulling out of Ukraine, why Trump would be impeached. He said that the House is going to impeach him on the emoluments clause, and that's exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
You know.
And well, how quickly did the troops move from Syria straight to Saudi Arabia? we all know like Saudi Arabia is like one of the huge contributors to like the what's the fucking word I'm looking for? The fossil fuel industry here in the United States.
They also purchase a fuck ton of weapons from us.
Yeah, forget about that too.
And they're also under Sharia law. People don't talk about that too much because they're our ally, and we hate Iran, who's under Sharia law. But Saudi Arabia is under Sharia law too.
They're also a monarchy, not a constitutional monarchy, just a straight up monarchy.
I will point out that they are trying to pay influencers and celebrities to vacate to Syria to bring in more. Saudi Arabia to bring in more tourists. That's the word I was looking for. That's
their crown princess thing. So he's a complete charlatan. You take away the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, whatever. I'm probably butchering his last name. You take it away. Like if you guys go way back in my video log, like one of the first videos I ever made as a raging atheist was when I first found out about bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, and he was saying he was going to set up this secular Saudi Arabia, and he was going to create this Mecca in the south, and it was going to be for free thinkers, and everybody was going to be invited. And I made this great fucking glowing video of this dude, like this is the future of Islam. And then I found out 2 weeks later he was locking up everybody that was progressive and liberal in Saudi Arabia. He was locking up journalists that said anything bad about him, and the whole Mecca thing was just bullshit. He was talking about taking over fucking Syria and creating a Mecca there. I mean, it was fucking insane. And then he goes on to kill the American.
You mean
journalist.
They used populist ideals in order to form a fascistic government?
Exactly. And he took power, and now he's pretty much got ultimate power. He's the crown prince, but the king ain't doing shit. It's him. He controls everything.
So I want to go back to what Big C was talking about, because I promised them that I would put it like that. We were just putting a pin in it for a moment. So go ahead, Big C. I want you to be able to talk again.
Well, I'm old. I never forgot about that part.
You were talking about what's the end goal? Like, what's the purpose?
What is the end goal of Trump and his cronies? It's not just a financial end goal.
I think it's
starting to look like.
Oh, go ahead. I'll let you answer, and then I'll give you my answer about what the end goal is.
It's starting to look like that he's trying to actually get all our allies against us, to where he has to make it look like he's dealing with more of the Putin types and the Kim Jong-un, and that'll make him look better. And then he'll be able to take away more of our freedoms. And we talk about the upper man, the president of the United States, or we talk about senators and congressmen. The real power starts to happen within your own towns and community. If you don't get out in those areas and don't start voting in those elections, so that they can't change, the lines that are drawn, and they can't change, where a voting is, or when somebody can vote, or with what they can vote. We're America, regardless, you should be able to vote regardless, period. And they're making it where it's harder.
Yeah, we did just have some rulings to where a lot of rulings came in favor of people voting. But in I want to get back to the Kurds eventually. But I'll let
well, go ahead.
If Ryla and AR wants,
we could get back to the Kurds.
Well, I think because I think you nailed it right on the head. I think that what people don't realize the most is that the Kurds have been our biggest ally in the Middle East for the longest period of time, and we never hear about them. We always hear about Saudi Arabia, but the Kurds have been there. You spoke about it. They did that uprising against Saddam. We didn't back them up. They were butchered, and then
we're too worried about pissing off those four quite fascistic countries. Well, I think Armenia is less so than the other three, but we're really pissed off. We're afraid of pissing off Iran, Syria, and Turkey.
I think we're.
Do y'all think that Iran wants to have a war?
Yeah, I don't.
I don't, but I think
y'all do realize that Iran's has two different types of governments, but they're still a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the only
And
reason Iran's our enemy is because we're such close allies with Saudi Arabia because they're fucking enemies.
and Israel.
Yeah, in Israel. Yeah.
Israel's a main one. Israel is the one that I worry about in this scenario. It worries me because they've been looking for a reason to attack Iran. And when that happens, you might as well go ahead and get your glow in the dark suit because it's going to go real bad real quick.
I mean, I hope that the new government that's going to take over Israel will be a little more clear-headed, but I don't know too much about the new government. They're more moderate than the Netanyahu government. Um, but yeah, I mean, what's moderate in Israel? I really can't answer that question honestly.
Well, they have their areas just like all Middle Eastern countries do. You know, they'll have their uh, high value areas where it looks just like damn California, you know, Los Angeles. And then they'll have their their outliers. Syria looks the same way. Iraq is unreal the way it was and the way it is now. Um, you know, you want to talk about a country that's super conservative. It is Sharia law, and that's Saudi. And when I tell you they cut people's heads off, they cut people's heads off in the street.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Faye corrected me that Saudi doesn't necessarily toss gay people off of roofs like some Sharia countries do, but they will definitely put them in jail. And atheists alike. I've seen several stories of atheists actually being tossed off of roofs in Saudi Arabia.
Could
Well,
you
yeah,
imagine the power that you have to be able to say, yes, I do not believe in your God, even though I'm going to die?
Wait, and this is like one of the major things. Like, you know, I'm going to be focusing on in the future. You know, John, who hosts his show on Wednesdays, he's going to be focusing on his own channel. Is the bravery it takes for ex-Muslim activists? Because, like, honestly, you know, I get death threats from extremist Christians, but it's really hard to actually worry about them too much. To where if you're an ex-Muslim activist, your death threats are real. You're literally putting your life on the line. So yeah, that's something just as an aside that the channel will be shifting and focusing, and I'm going to try to have a lot more ex-Muslims on to talk about their experiences.
So coming back to the Kurds and sort of this, Big C, do you have an idea of sort of the timeline of, since you said you fought alongside them, do you want to talk about some of your experiences? Would you like to talk a little bit about the timeline of sort of this withdrawal and the way that all of that has worked? Because we talked a little bit about the history of the Kurds themselves, but we haven't spoken quite as much about how that has worked in context of the particular war against ISIS that's been being waged.
In this particular group,
at guerrilla warfare.
And as we spoke before stream, Ali, like this particular group, and you kind of hinted on it at the opening of the stream, this particular group was actually fighting for a democracy-style way of living that actually accepted Western secular values. And, you know, in the midst of a war of fighting our enemy ISIS, having Assad to the south, Turkish state that wanted to obliterate them, they still managed to somehow make this soft little safe zone in northern Syria for Western secular values. And now, like, Trump has literally just pulled the rug out underneath that.
Well, when y'all think about the Kurds, how do y'all think about it? Do you think that they're like I mean, they're basically almost close to a nomad people, right?
Yeah,
but they're in different groups.
Yeah,
there's several soldiers that are.
Yeah, the Kurds in Turkey. I think like Turkey's like 40% Kurds. I think actually. Maybe
according to the article that I read, it's like 15 to 20% of the population.
Yeah, it could be a lower number like that, but it's still a significant minority. It's not like an insignificant number in Turkey that are actually Kurds. But yeah, as you're saying, Kurds are like a different variety of Islam. They're nomadic. They each have like different, depending on where you're at and where you're born. Basically, depends on what kind of Kurd you are.
I don't think like
But I don't know.
Then
Like I'm
the
still
people
ignorant.
that are there matters much because they're still people nonetheless, and nobody deserves to get killed just simply because of who they are. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's my overall point. You know, is that that I'm anti-war, so I don't want anybody dying. Like I don't want anybody fighting war ever.
Knock.
And that's
Knock.
such an ideal dream. But yeah, go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, I was about to say you're going on. Let Big C, like, he was trying to, sort of bring things up. So let's let him talk.
Well, no,
You were asking like what our
the
ideas of the
military
Kurds
soldiers that are the military soldiers that we have, the units that we have with them, they're already gone. They've already pulled them. And the way that it works is that you'd have, like, let's say that you'd have a dispatch of a unit, say a platoon or more, that would go out with the Kurdish fighters. Now they're not gonna engage the targets like they do with small hand weapons or rifles. They're gonna attack by calling for fire with any aircraft that are in the area or artillery. But they live day in, day out with these people. And all of a sudden, that piece of shit says enough's enough. A soldier has, if your general says, hey, it's time to go, your sergeant says it's time to go, you got to go. There's nothing else you could do. These Kurds are going to be slaughtered in between Turkey and Syria in a way that you can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about genocide. I mean, they're going to be wiped out.
And let me tell y'all something. It might seem kind of bad to what we see on TV, but let me tell you something. Until you've had to pick dead babies' body parts out of chain link fence from IEDs, or you've had to sit there and watch children just decimated like you couldn't believe. That's where people need to wake the hell up and realize that we're in some serious trouble here.
We're a
And
bit
if
spoiled
we don't
here in
do
the US. We
something-
haven't had a ground war on our own turf in quite some time.
Yes. Well, we're fighting each other. Everybody, they're winning. Trump and Putin and Erdogan and they're all winning because we don't pay attention comparatively to them as we do our own selves on Facebook or on anything else. We yell at people that wear the mega hats, which, at this point, if you're a Trump supporter, I have no time for you. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can teach you or get from you that's going to help my life or your life. He's a lying, cheat, a sexist, fake piece of garbage.
Transphobe.
Yeah, I mean, you can wrap it all up into a little pill with him, and I don't think there's any doubt that what he's doing now is only benefiting our enemies and not ourselves. And you're right, it's really hard for me to play that like moderate game with Trump supporters at this point. It's like, no, you're defending a traitorous son of a bitch at this point. Like, we have betrayed our allies, and you're defending it.
Yes. Look what he did. Look what he did with Germany. Look what he's done with the UK. Every ally
That's
that we
absolutely
have.
fucking terrible. And you know what? This is an interesting thing on the subject of Brexit. The Trump administration was actually pushing really hard towards for Brexit because they were also pressuring Britain to open up its markets to lower quality goods that were banned by the EU in Britain. And given that that's looking like they're moving more and more towards a no deal Brexit, we're going to be their biggest supplier of things like food for quite some time, us and China.
Oh yeah, we stand to profit off all this shit.
Who does? Who stands to profit?
Capitalism.
You?
Capitalism.
Look, any
The only people that
society,
benefit from this are people that own the companies.
any society, democracy, communist, does not matter. Socialist doesn't matter. It is going to be a bad for the people if there's corruption. I don't care what it is. And it always turns towards corruption. Most people don't realize, though, that the alt-right is screaming that the left wants socialism, right? Well, we basically already live in a socialist country. You could get taken care of by the state, but you're regulated. Majority of everything that you do in your life is regulated through the state. You can't go into a damn cheese shop and piss on cheese, can you? Hey, that's a fact, Jack.
Oh, you're getting into
scary.
the stream I want to do.
Hello, when we
Look.
do a stream in the future on disability rights, you're definitely going to be invited.
Yeah,
I served my country. I served from 87 to 94. I went to, I was in the first Gulf War, and then I was in Panama. And it's the same corruption, just different times. And if we don't start getting something happen and our youth doesn't get away from being about whataboutism and how everybody else has got it better than they do, if we don't get over that shit, this country's done.
You're my new best friend. That's half of my daily rant.
yeah, I agree. I think we have a cold reality facing us. You know, we have climate change, resources. If we think that these wars are going to cool off, the wars are actually only going to grow hotter as we move forward, as people start really fighting over resources. Water is going to be a huge issue moving forward. Before I'm dead, water is going to start many wars. War is our future, unless we can somehow come together and have better ideas and allow science to fucking save us all. The problem is we have an attack on science. We have an attack on what's reality. We have an attack on truth. I mean, it's hard to get anything through this social fucking sphere anywhere. Like, as you said, like, if people are supporting Trump at this point, they're supporting him no matter what. The Republicans in Congress slowly are starting to peel away, but he's not going to lose enough support to really remove him from office. This is going to continue. This is going to be up to the American people ultimately to decide.
It's going to take a while. There's a leaked audio of Republicans having a back and forth, talking shit about Trump just recently.
Oh, they
Not
all
just
hate
that.
him. They all hate him, but they're not willing to have another Nixon in their party. I mean, it will be the death of them.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like they have him now.
Can I
mean,
suggest
he's
this?
hiring other countries to spy on his political opponents, and that's
Yeah, I mean, it's getting harder. I mean,
Nah.
especially like today. Like, all right, so breaking news. Has everybody seen Mick Mulvaney just basically came out and was like, "Oh yeah, quid pro quo, definitely, yeah, we did it. Get over it." Straight up said it, admitted to it today.
Yeah,
What
but we
I was
lost a
trying to
man
say-
today. We
What I was
lost a
trying to
man
s-
today, Cummins. He passed away.
Yeah, nobody's
last
even
night.
talking about that today.
That man was beaten to half to death as a civil activist.
Stood right next to MLK. I mean,
Instead of having debates or discussions with people that want to just throw in the feels, we have to educate. And y'all have to educate, each and every one of y'all. Everybody that's fucking listening to this. You need to educate yourself in facts, not in fake news and not in emotions. And if you don't do it, if y'all don't do it, and everybody out there doesn't do it, then you know what? We'll lose America. And my family's fought for this country since we got here. Every male member of my family has been a military soldier in a war. And to see what I'm seeing today is ridiculous. It's hurtful.
yeah, I'm glad you came in because, you know, to have that perspective is vital. I tried to join after 9/11, and because of my leg issues, I was rejected on the physical. Not even my felonies. Like, it was crazy. Like, they were like, yeah, come on, we don't care about your felonies. But I didn't pass the physical ultimately. But
No, but
to
you
have
have
that
you have an
perspective-
outlet. Raging
What?
Atheist, or not, you have an outlet. You have subscribers now. Everything that you say should be what you know, what you can show, and it should be the absolute truth. You're a person now online that has a following. You have a responsibility to. You couldn't serve after 9/11. You can serve now.
Yeah, I try.
Well,
I've got a hard choice, right? So
Dragnut
I've
Dragnut's doing a
been
hell of a job.
I've been working with a congresswoman, and I've got a choice of uh, political conflicts that I've got to overcome. Either I overcome them and I work for her, or I don't overcome them and I don't. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, it's something that I'm trying to take more seriously now, and it's why I've kind of restructured the show to be the way that it is. Is I want to be more factual, and if I'm wrong about something, I definitely want to find the truth to it and adjust my rhetoric.
So,
Well-
Big C, I'm actually I wanted to actually ask you a quick question. I'm curious what your experience like. Obviously, don't give any sort of names or personal info if you're not comfortable. But what was it like fighting alongside the Kurdish soldiers, and what was your experience of their culture and just obviously everybody's an individual, but we can read articles, but you've actually had experience directly with them.
Let me just say this. I was a drill sergeant at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I've trained quite a few Kurds in Saudi, the frontline fighters. They get all their training from us. So all their artillery units, all of their infantry, they don't have any planes. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't have anything like that. These kids are just like our kids. The only difference is that the war that they're fighting is in their land. We don't have war in our land like that. It's heartbreaking to see this. My phone's gonna die, so I'm gonna have to jump off. But I'm gonna try to get right. I'm gonna try to get back in a few minutes if y'all are still on.
Oh yeah, come back in
Okay.
if you can.
We're having a fantastic
Yeah.
discussion. Thank you so much for coming, whether you can come back on in a bit or not. You've had a wonderful perspective, and I'm quite grateful for it.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me on, and like I said, everybody's got a part. Everybody's got a job, and this country deserves it. Thank you.
Well, and thank you for your service as well. I know
Yeah,
that these
thank you
things
so
are
much.
incredibly complicated.
Yeah, definitely. Did somebody delete that fucking comment I'm reading?
Yes, I immediately timed him out and told him not to do that again.
Fuck. Yeah, that's the other bad thing about StreamYard. It doesn't show me what my moderators are doing.
Oh yeah, you'll see almost right on the heels of that comment. I'm like, cool, that shit. That was clearly, blatantly
Yeah, that's
harassing.
Good deal. All right, cool.
Also, Maynard saves with the smoke weed every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for allowing that comment through. I only read "pay my healthcare racist" before. That was just I should have read it. I'm sorry.
I saw it way late. I just literally saw it minutes before I said something about it. I'm like, what the fuck am I reading?
Yeah, what you read
Wow.
what you read was an incredibly racist troll. Let's not feed them. We don't have any business on that. So yeah, I'm actually, in a way, I think it was almost a positive thing that something, obviously it's not necessarily a good thing because what came up was quite brutal for Pig, but we actually have had a wonderful room. As a result, we had a veteran come on and sort of talk about his experiences, and that's amazing.
And it was refreshing because, you always hear the narrative that veterans are for Trump. The veterans are always for the Republican. And that's not always true because it's always Republicans that lead these veterans into unnecessary wars. These veterans go and they fight these wars. They get to know these people, and then these Republicans pull them out. Trump's not the first one. Big C spoke of it when he was here. The first Bush betrayed the Kurds initially. The Kurds rose up against a brutal dictator for us because we told them we'd have their back. They fucking rose up against Saddam Hussein, and Saddam Hussein slaughtered them, butchered them, and we didn't do anything because we're America and we're about that oil, and that's all we give a fuck about.
So I need to AFK briefly for a bathroom break, but if any of the three of you would like to talk, we started to briefly touch on it, but Nock, I sent a couple of articles to the chat. I know that you've seen a few. Would you like to try to dig into the timeline of events, like sort of how long the Kurds have been helping us out, how they got involved with the war, about how long it took Trump after they, withdrew their, sort of broke down a lot of their heavily fortified, barriers, how long it took Trump to pull the troops, that sort of thing, to kind of give our viewers a timeline of the events that we're talking about.
I mean, I have it roughly in my mind. I don't have it prepared.
Well, you could grab an article if you need to, like the Google Foo. It's pretty easy. If you look up who are the Kurds, there's an article that goes over that timeline by the BBC.
Yeah. All right.
But it's actually quite interesting to take a look at it because they've been helping us for a lot longer than the media's been spotlighting them. By the way, Rilla, I know that you mentioned that you have two parents with military backgrounds. I'm curious what you're feeling on Trump and the deferments and sort of the mistreatment that's been going on with the troops while Knox getting himself settled.
Well, that's kind of an interesting situation there. My stepfather is firmly a Trump supporter. My father is rabidly anti-Trump and despises him because of the deferments. And I'm going to speak on my bio dad's behalf because I'm a little more comfortable on that front there because, yeah. Dad served in the Cold War on a submarine and is extremely trying to think of a delicate way to put this. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a very delicate way to put this. He feels that that Trump dodging was extremely dishonorable. And he feels that the way Trump has been handling, or as he puts it, mishandling the military since is beyond dishonorable. And honestly, there's really not much else to say to it beyond that, unless you just want me to repeat some of the vitriol that's come off of my father's computer screen. It's I don't like speaking for other people. It's I just kind of consider that to be an awkward thing, but yeah. My stepdad, he kind of gets quiet when that subject comes up.
Yeah, I have the same problem in my family. Pretty much the entire dad side of my family are all Trump supporters. None of them talk to me anymore. I've been disowned. I'm not allowed to speak.
I haven't been disowned. There's just that subject just doesn't get brought up at the dinner table.
Yeah, I stopped talking to my family about the shit. But I did have to ask, the question today. Like they're all supposed proud Americans. They believe in the military. They believe in these wars that we fight, and that we're advancing freedom. They believe in their family values. They believe in the Constitution. And yet, for the last 3 years, they have watched as the president has stomped all over that Constitution, has stomped all over their family values, has misused their military, and they still support him. And there's no talking to them. There's no convincing them that he's doing any of those things that he's actually fucking doing, because they only believe what he says, not what they see with their own two eyes. It's disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did bring up the article Ali told me to bring up. She's probably better with articles than I am, because it's basically just telling me what I already know, and it's not really giving me a timeline on how they've been an ally. So I'll only talk about briefly like how I know that they've been an ally. As I said, I've studied Syria for quite a while. I've actually did a story on the children of Aleppo back during the 2016 campaign on my first channel. That was a very in-depth look at what was happening inside of the city of Aleppo at the time, which had become a hot button political issue during the 2016 campaign.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people probably remember the children of Aleppo, and it was a hot button issue. But as Big C was saying when he was here, when I first became aware of the Kurds being an ally to us, it was during the first Iraqi war. They were helping us inside the country, even though we weren't going necessarily too far inside of the country during that first war. We didn't ultimately do what we said we was going to do, which was take Saddam Hussein out of power. And then when we told the Kurds that they'd had their uprising, we backed them. We just didn't, and they got slaughtered. Yet, during the second Iraqi war, they had open arms and they welcomed us. And we all know about the shitstorm that occurred over the next decade in Iraq, and how we pretty much just obliterated the political landscape, the country, and everything else. Over the last decade or so. But then in Syria, the Kurds resurged and became the major force that really helped us against ISIS in Syria, which Syria was the Caliphate's strongest stronghold at that time. It's where it pretty much started, extended into Iraq. We pretty
By
much
the way, Knock,
counted them. Go ahead.
I posted the particular article I was referencing. There was one from the New York Times as well. And it talks about the past 5 years or so of timeline going on with the Kurds and the US specifically.
Yeah, I will let you. You're probably better with articles than me, because I was just like, I'm not good at reading while I'm streaming. That's why I don't do much script content.
All right, so I just posted the article in the chat. I'm going to go over sort of what it talks about. This is the New York Times, so it's a relatively accurate source of news, I would hope. It's one of the mainstream sources. It says, in August 2014, the Islamic State launched surprise attacks in Kurdish-held areas of Iraq, forcing the Iraqi Kurdish militia, known as the Peshmerga, to retreat. A number of towns fell to the Islamic State, including Sinjar, home of the Yazidi religious minority. Islamic State militants killed thousands of Yazidis, many of whom had been stranded after fleeing the top of a mountain. Many others, including children, are captured and forced into sexual slavery. In response, President Barack Obama ordered airstrikes in Iraq. The Syrian Kurdish militia, known as the People's Protection Units, known as the YPG, also came to the aid of Peshmerga. The militia has ties to violent separatist movement inside Turkey known as the Kurdistan Workers' Parties, or the PKK. So that's that was sort of one of the that was where the alliance between the US and the Kurds sort of began, was in August in 2014 in response to these attacks. In September 2014, Islamic State militants attacked the town being Kobani, a Syrian city near the Turkish border, prompting 200,000 people to flee across the Turkish border. Despite humanitarian crisis, Turkey did not allow the Kurdish refugees to cross with vehicles or livestock. It also did not attack Islamic State positions, even though they were within miles of its border, or allow Turkish Kurds to cross into Syria to help defend Kobane. So in January 2015, apparently Kurdish forces took Kobane after months of fighting that left more than 1,500 people dead. The Kurds were assisted by American airstrikes and ground troops, as well as a coalition of Arab and Kurdish militias known as the Syrian Democratic Forces that was fighting in the Syrian government. After weeks of fighting, the Kurds drove ISIS away from the Turkish border, establishing a much larger stronghold on Turkey's doorstep, further angering the Turks. August 2016, this is in Syria. Turkey sent tanks, warplanes, and special operations forces into northern Syria to take control of the Islamic State stronghold of Jarablus. Jarablus, I apologize if I'm butchering these names. If anybody wants to correct my pronunciation in the chat, feel free. At the time, it was Turkey's most significant foray into Syria. As much as the incursion was about pushing the Islamic State militants out of their border stronghold, the invasion was also meant to roll back advantage by the Syrian Kurdish militias. So in October 2017, in Raqqa, the fall of an ISIS capital, much of Raqqa, the Islamic State's de facto capital in Syria, was devastated in an attack that included an assault by the Syrian Defense Forces and American-led airstrikes that killed more than 1,000 civilians. About 270,000 residents were displaced by the fighting. January 2018, Afrin, Syria, a Turkish airstrike on the Kurds. For weeks, Turkish warplanes bombed the Kurdish enclave of Afrin in northern Syria, killing hundreds of civilians and more than 1,000 Kurdish militia fighters. At least 137,000 people were displaced. The Afrin battle foreshadowed this week's attacks. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey pressed ahead with the offensive despite warnings from the United States that it would further destabilize war-torn Syria. Beginning from the west, step by step, we will annihilate the terror corridor up the Iraqi border, Mr. Erdogan said at the time, using a phrase he would later reiterate to justify this week's cross-border attacks. December 2018 in New York. There are great people that we have not forgotten. Some of President Trump's allies in Congress criticized what they say was a shift in American policy that betrayed the Kurds. Last year, speaking reporters in New York, Mr. Trump suggested that the United States would not allow Turkey to unilaterally attack Kurdish militants in Syria. Great fighters, I like them a lot, Mr. Trump said of the Kurds in September 2018. We're trying to help them a lot. Don't forget that that's their territory. They fought with us. They died with us. We lost tens of thousands of Kurds fighting ISIS. They're great people, and we have not forgotten. December 2018, Ankara. Erdogan aims to eliminate the Kurdish militia. We're almost done, by the way. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threatened to attack the Syrian Kurds almost a year ago, but was stopped by the United States at the last minute. This time around, President Trump saw less reason to present an onslaught. The Turkish president has not minced words about what his objective is, an incursion that eliminates both PKK-YPD elements and remnants of Daesh. Mr. Erdogan says using an Arabic acronym for the Islamic State. This should be known. Caliphate falls, March 2019. The alliance between the Kurds and the United States has its greatest victory in March and Baghuz, B-A-G-H-U-Z, Baghuz, when Kurdish fighters, backed by American bombers, destroy the last major ISIS holdout. The success of that rout helped Mr. Trump justify allowing the Kurdish military to attack the Kurds. He said this week that there was nothing in Syria but sand and that the territory was no longer worth protecting. On Wednesday, again, this is March 2019. So on Wednesday, he said the Kurds were not deserving of American support because they were fighting only to defend their own land and had not served alongside American soldiers in the Battle of Normandy Beach in France during World War II. So that is the sort of timeline that has been set up.
What happened?
We just lost Ellie. She'll be back. So yeah, that was a fairly good depiction. Essentially, the PKK, who Trump has come out and called a terrorist organization, and who does do terrorist acts. There's no doubt. They do fight against Turkey. But the PKK is the very group that we gave weapons to and sought help to defeat ISIS when we went into Syria. And they've actually done a fairly decent job of creating this zone in northern Syria that was a safe haven for not only themselves, but for our troops. and that's been completely taken away. And today, ceasefire was announced, and Mike Pence called it a ceasefire. It's not really a ceasefire. It's a 120-hour stay of action. So basically, what we did was we lifted our new sanctions on Turkey. So we got 120 hours to stop the genocide. And then after
Hey,
that,
knock. Aliakai,
she's
told me to
back.
get your attention.
Yeah, she's back. There she is. But then after that 120 hours, Turkey can do whatever the fuck they want to do, and all the new sanctions are gone, and we can't put them back. That's part of the deal. Master of the deal shit here. And and then once there's a ceasefire established, and I'm saying that with quotes right now because I don't have my camera on, so I have to tell you I'm saying that with air quotes. Once there's a ceasefire, then all of the sanctions against Turkey gets lifted. So all Turkey has to do is kill every Kurd, declare a ceasefire, and then not only, they can kill every Kurd without all the new sanctions, according to this deal, but once they kill every Kurd and declare a ceasefire, well, then they get all the old sanctions taken away too. Art of the deal, y'all. Donald Trump, he can make a deal like nobody, and he sent the best. He sent Pence and Pompeo, and they made a deal of deals. Turkey got everything they fucking wanted. We didn't get a goddamn thing except for 120 hours of Kurds not being killed.
Yeah, it's been quite a mess, to be honest. Like, it's ridiculous what he did. He got what he wanted, and then he immediately fucked them over because he got sweet-talked by a dictator. And let's face it, he admires dictators. It's obvious. He praises every dictator because he likes power, and he's obsessed with it. He's incredibly, he's almost infant when it comes to how much his ego rules him.
He's praised
Especially
Erdogan now.
It's
Kim Jong-un.
It's fucking weird.
Assad. I mean, he's praised Assad. He's praised Putin.
Yep.
Like the list just goes on and on and on. Like, he literally gets a hard on if there's an authoritarian in the house.
Well, and I think he just admires the unfettered power. I think he fancies himself to be a despot, and
he yearns for it, and he wants it. And if he gets reelected, he's going to think he has it.
Yeah, I mean, it's infuriating.
This is the part of the stream where I tell everybody to hurry up and go register to vote. And if you are registered, make sure to check to make sure you're still registered. And if not, do that. We need votes.
What was it? The Moody Institute just came out and said Trump's going to win in a landslide. And they're fairly accurate with their predictions. It's very scary. Despite and that's the scariest thing about this all, is I remember when I was a Republican growing up in the South, that we stood for something, at least we thought we did, right? Like it took me moving away from the South and really coming outside of that to see that it really never stood for anything. It was always just a bunch of words. But now they just prove it with every action. It has always been the Republican doctrine that you do not abandon our allies. You do not risk our national security. We are strong in defense. We are the party that will fuck you up if you fuck with America, right? And now they're the party that we will fucking abandon you if you help America. Now they're the party if we're gonna run away from our duties once we start a fucking war. That's what America stands for now, because that's what Republicans have made us. And they have to look at themselves in the mirror. And I don't even really think we really need to do much, because the cracks are there. All they really got to do is continue to look at themselves in the fucking mirror and remember what they were supposed to stand for and what they're fucking standing for now. And eventually I would think that they have to fucking break. I just honestly believe that. I'm hoping for that before 2020. Because let's be honest, he's not going to be removed from office. The dude isn't. We're going to have to beat him politically.
So, you said you wanted to go closer to an hour and a half. Did Big C ever come back?
No, I haven't seen him back. I'm really glad that he came back, and I would love to have you back on for your perspective. you know, it's one of the things that I really wanted to talk about to PigPuncher tonight about is that, you know, the thing that I've seen about PigPuncher is he used to be alt-right and now he's left, you know, and he's you know, he's a really young guy, you know, and that's been one of my fears is the alt-right influencing the youth, and PigPuncher is an example of being influenced by that alt-right and defeating it, and breaking that norms. And what I got from Big C was that he is a veteran that basically, through his experience, has come to see things a lot closer to the way we see things on the left, and that's basically being put in these war zones and seeing these situations with his own eyes. I'd love to have him back on.
And to answer you, Stu the Woodcurving Druid, at least 2 of the people in this Discord call are communists rather than being Democrats, so I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, I mean, trolls are gonna troll because they troll. I do attract trolls because I'm such a good troll, I think.
Or Discord, I guess. In this stream, Discord. I spend way too much bloody time on Discord.
Same.
Yeah, I'm with you, AR Sanders 2020. Like, I've been back and forth between Warren and Sanders. Warren has really good Native American policy, but
I'm more of a
big money donations. You know, it's like
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
I'm never okay with that. Like, I see her more as a corporate Democrat and not part of like the Justice Wing Dem.
Yeah, me too.
Like
Bernie all the way.
You know,
but I'll take Warren
think
over everybody else. You know, like if Bernie don't win, I'd rather have it be Warren.
But with that, yeah, all the way. Warren's like my second like runner up if Sanders doesn't get the election. I mean, I would prefer them to like run together, like Sanders is president and then Warren is the VP. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, no, I actually got, you know, I commented that on Mr. Atheist Twitter feed, and you know he posed some kind of question. I was like Sanders / Warren 2020, and he was like, well, more than likely it would be Warren / Sanders.
Hey, Big C's back. Speak of the
Big
devil.
C's back now.
Yeah, I'm a blue no matter who guy, like myself anyway.
Yeah, me too. It's Warren, Sanders, anybody that's against Trump. Unless maybe possibly Beto O'Rourke, because I hate that dude.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Welcome back.
Good to go. Good to go.
What's up, Big C?
So, Agent or Nakasuchi, you were saying about the alt-right and about the military being Trump supporters.
Yeah, well, you always hear that the military are primarily Republican.
Yeah, you only hear that out of Trump's mouth. The enlisted in the United States military are not for Trump. Most officers are starting to turn now. I have a lot of friends that are still in that I deal with quite a bit. They're not for him because he's not for the Constitution. One thing that Trump's done is shown us how bad or how much of our Constitution we need to work on.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's actually refreshing to hear.
The youth is.
Yeah, because I've
There's
wondered.
a lot that can be done.
They don't report on that like they used to, because that's always the narrative you heard, especially back in the Bush days, is like Bush had the military, but you don't hear that reporting so much. So yeah, that was just a lot of assumption on my part. So that's actually really refreshing to hear that the military is thinking about their constitutional duties, because I think it might actually come to a point if Trump is either removed or voted out of office, that we're going to need our military to remember their constitutional duties if he calls them to do something illegal.
And here's one thing that I will say about the military. Coming from a veteran family myself, my stepfather was like a vet himself, and my actual father was as well. There's one thing that I do know about military folks, above and beyond like loyalty to the president or to any political party, they tend to have loyalty to the country. And the vast majority of military folks that didn't get in because of, like, say, poverty and wanting to get the GI Bill and such, they wanted to get in to make a difference, to protect some variation on what they considered to be freedom to serve their country. And Bixie, you can cut me off if you think I'm wrong here, but this has been my experience of the military. Like, it reshapes you quite a bit, and a lot of people do end up conservative, but like that loyalty is to the country and to the nation rather than to any individual person for the majority of them, at least in my experience.
Well, yeah, and I think that's why you see Trump making a deliberate effort to get the career diplomats out, because they're not, and the career like generals out of their positions of power, because they're not political. They are what they are, and they don't get political. I think you've seen that throughout the Trump presidency is from the very beginning. He tried to put a couple in very key positions, Mad Dog, and then the other guy, I can't remember his name right now, but quickly got them out of there as soon as he could, because he doesn't want those people that are apolitical. He wants political partisans in those positions of power.
You do realize that Mad Dog hates being called Mad Dog, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But he kind of deserves it.
It wasn't because he was a tough guy. It was because he has a lisp and he used to drool quite a bit. So when he was early in his military career, that's what they named him. It wasn't because he was a Marine.
Oh, no shit. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch some of his videos and listen to him speak.
I will say
he's worked through it quite a bit.
He earned a lot of points with me in his most recent interview. He came out in stern opposition to Donald Trump, which was very, very refreshing, because most of them don't. Even like Tillerson, who we all know hates Trump, hasn't really come out publicly against Trump.
Well, I was really glad that Raylan had read that article that she'd pulled up. That's the type of information that needs to get out. But also realize that our military.
That was me that I read that out, by the way.
Yes, it was. It was. Oh, was it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that.
Okay, I just got y'all mixed up. I was looking up at my screen, so. But
no
think
problem.
about the percentage of who joins the military. 70% of who joins the military are in poverty situations in their life. They're either just finished high school, don't have no promises out there. They got a girl pregnant. They don't have the ability to go to college. Those are the types that are in our military now. And they give of themselves more than any of these Republicans or Democrats. I think the parties are so tore up. I don't say I'm either. I'm a fucking American. And I vote the same way I served. I'm American. And when we figure that part out, then we can come back together. But until then, we're going to continue to say the left or the right. And it doesn't help nobody. Nobody.
I somewhat agree. I think that's what's refreshing about the progressive movement, especially like is we are on the left. We call out our own. Like I've struggled on whether or not to remain in the Democratic Party, to keep calling myself a Democrat, or just call myself a progressive, or just call myself an American that just thinks for myself, and I'm willing to try new ideas, and I personally think that our Constitution really needs to be looked at and updated, and we really need to have like another constitutional convention really to come together as parties and decide what we want this country to be. I don't think we can do that now in this polarized arena with a dictator wannabe Republican, and this is the ultimate conundrum of the right and the left right now, is we're trying to decide what we're going to be. The left has been moderate. The left has went farther right as the right wings moderates have went farther right over the last 20 years. And right now, the struggle with the left is we need to stop being so fucking weak and moderate. And that does often lead to if you're going to promote it, it's going to lead to some extremist thinking. And that's needed when you've been just pounded by the right incessantly over the last 30 years. The right has went farther right. And we now have Donald Trump, who is just a blatant actor. I mean, he's a reality show actor who's playing to the crowd. He's playing to this very extreme base, and people are eating it up. How long are they going to eat it up? I think that this right here when you lose the military as a Republican, you lose everything. This is, I think, what everything should be focused on is this military strategy and what's going on in the Middle East.
Well, let me ask you this, or let me ask all of y'all this. Would you, when you make a statement like I'm a Democrat or I'm a progressive or I'm an alt-right, then you're placing a label on yourself, right? So, Toshi Gabbard, she's a Democrat by name, but most of her policies and her plans that she puts forth are Republican. So the question is, would you vote for a Republican that had the same beliefs and ideas that you had?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
definitely, without a doubt.
a Republican was fighting for social justice and was progressive and was fighting for like the rights of folks who are disabled and the poor, then absolutely. The problem is the vast majority of them don't.
Yeah, like seriously. So this was like the roadblock.
I would not give Tulsi Gabbard my vote for what it's worth.
Well, let me say this. No. Let me say this. If that's the case, then stop looking at it as a Democrat or a Republican or a progressive or alt-right. Start looking at the person that you're voting for.
The problem is when you're talking, I agree with you about Democrat or Republican, but when you're talking about alt-right or progressive, that does actually mean something. Like the alt-right has a specific ideology.
And the whole thing with language, though, is we have these words for a reason. They're very good descriptors of what somebody might, on average, believe. Sure, some of their ideology might differ from what is the average, but it serves its purpose. If for whatever reason, what they believed would be switched and the labels meant something totally different, then by all means, if a just like Aliakai was saying, if there was a Republican that, for whatever reason, believed in workers' rights, believed in social justice for all marginalized groups, all that kind of good stuff, then I'd vote for them. But right now, these words are very important.
All I'm saying is that instead of looking at the title, look at the individuals that are running. That way you have the information of what they are and who they are. Please.
Because locally, there have been Republicans on the local level that have gotten my vote because of that.
That's good.
Now they never got much past the state board level, and because they bucked the party line, they never got more than one term. But they got my vote.
Again, for what it's worth, when it comes to things like progressive versus the alt-right, progressive means generally that you're in support of advancing the causes of minorities and the disenfranchised. That is polar opposite of the alt-right, which is for advancing the status quo.
And I also think that a major component of progressivism is everything that Ali just said, but it's also a refusal to back down to the right. So for about 20 years, the right had a free advantage of liberals that were cowards, and they would just justify their way out of any argument. They would not defend themselves or their positions. Progressives do, and this is actually why we see a progressive takeover of the left right now. There can be no denial. Biden is done. The moderates are clutching onto Amy Klobuchar right now. They've went so far as to say that, she can abuse her staff. That's okay. No, it's not. No. She's got a 2% fucking vote. We're down to Bernie and we're down to Warren right now. The progressives have taken over the party, and it is a justified label because we are fed up with these weak ass liberals not standing for our positions and not standing for workers. That's what progressive means. We are a worker party, and we will stand for the workers of the country because that is what makes this country, and these corporations are going to find out the hard way.
Okay, well, let me shock y'all real quick. The Republican Party right now, the ones that are voting for Trump, are not Republicans. By all in all, they're Democrats. Most of them are, and please, I mean this. Yes.
I'm sorry. Just
look
I don't,
at
I
the
don't think you're
rallies.
No, let him finish.
Listen. You can even see it on YouTube with people like Von Hilton, Brett King, Shanny. These are not lifelong Republicans. They have no clue what being a Republican is about.
Do you know what the
know-
availability heuristic is? Also, I wouldn't be using like Brett Keane and Von Helton as like your best examples for this argument. They're kind of
No,
like
for
fringe
not
in
being
their
a
own right. You know
Republican?
what I mean?
No. For not being a
Yeah.
Republican or for claiming they're a Republican.
Well, I spoke of this briefly on In Time in my interview last Tuesday, and I agree with you. Like these Republicans
social.
aren't real Republicans,
They're socially
but the problem
unmotivated.
is that the majority of Republicans have become this Republican, and there's a very slim minority of opposition to it.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Republican Party has forgotten what it means to actually. I used to be a Republican. I know what
You
it.
have to-
Mhm.
I know what it means, and these Republicans today, they're just hypocrites. They're willing. They only toe the party line, and they have sold their souls. There's a slim minority out there, I agree, that are standing for conservative values. They're standing for the true right, and they are getting beaten down because nobody's voicing
Yes.
for them. They're just not.
I don't think
As well
like
as they
most,
should.
I wouldn't say like most people have like a very fundamental understanding of economics. I mean, I wouldn't even say like I'm an expert in economics or anything. A lot of people vote for social reasons. You know what I mean? And over the last like
Fear, emotions.
40, 50 years, the Republican Party has stood for
I don't know.
anti-immigration, like
Can I
anti-LGBTQ.
They actively
hold
adopted.
policies
on a moment here? I wanted to ask Big C, what do you mean by emotions?
Well, that's what elections are based off of primarily. The three big are immigration, abortion, and the Second Amendment.
Yeah,
The Democrats and the Republicans all run
Well,
on it.
Well, there's
But
four.
the problem is that they
four.
don't. There's
Just
no.
to add one on, Big
What?
C, real quick. I'm sorry. There's four. There's actually four because Republicans vote for the Supreme Court, Democrats don't, and the Supreme Court gets turnout every fucking time. It's how they beat us every fucking time.
Well, they beat us locally is what hurts us, because when they beat us locally, then they can change the lines, and when they change the lines, then they're able to stay in power. We've looked at how bad Trump has been. Look how many judges he's put in.
It's the most
In
atrocious
power.
thing of his presidency that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Like, we hear about the Supreme Court. He has put in thousands of judges all across the country that are extreme far right
Yes.
judges, without a doubt.
Who do you think that hurts?
Yeah.
That hurts minorities. That hurts the LGBTQ.
And
That
guess what,
hurts-
people?
That hurts civil rights.
It's not just Republicans voting all these judges through for Trump. It's fucking Democrats too.
Yeah, I would have brought up a long list, including like, it doesn't matter. It's
Well,
Everything
the
you
fear.
don't
If you can put fear into people, then you can make them feel like their life is on the line, right? If you can say, okay, them or they, ISIS or Antifa or the KKK, if you can use those terms and it affects somebody's emotions, then they'll go vote for you. Trump does this nonstop with remember, he was the one where it was rigged. Everything was rigged, right? And then everything's a witch hunt. He's losing Republicans. He's just not losing enough. And I was a Republican until 2015. I was a card-carrying Republican. I'm a conservative heart, but I believe in pro-choice. I don't have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body, but I believe that a man should have a responsibility, full responsibility, if that woman decides to carry. So I am a conservative by heart, but my Republican Party's gone, and it's been gone.
Well, I mean, actual centrists, progressive Republicans, and more conservative Democrats, those are all a dead species at this point. Ever since, and this is a sort of Fox thing, and we've got
Agreed.
about maybe 10 minutes
Excuse me,
left.
I'm here.
Well, what I was saying was, ever since Fox sort of won their lawsuit and defeated the equal, I'm trying to remember what it was actually called, but there was a particular provision that stated that news organizations had to present both sides of an issue or had to present as politically neutrally as possible. And like Fox News actually won a lawsuit at the Supreme Court level that it was the Fairness Doctrine, that's what it was called. And they argued that they were an entertainment thing rather than news. And so all of the other news stations changed their system to be considered entertainment rather than news. And ever since then, we've been polarizing deeper and deeper ever since.
Well,
And
I mean,
Yeah, that was a 5-4 vote.
and this is the thing. What really, I mean, if you're going to be a fascist, what you do is latch on to weaknesses, and we have allowed corporations to control this country, and corporations control this news media. Trump isn't wrong to point the finger at the media. Trump is wrong to call them the enemy of the people. Trump is wrong to put out propaganda shooting them in the fucking head, but he's not wrong to point the finger at the media, because the media tells a story, and they don't tell a completely accurate story. They tell the oligarch narrative, the corporate narrative that they want people to hear, that everything's going to be fucking fine, even though you can barely put food on your table. That's what they want to put out. And you need to be afraid, because if you don't have a gun, you're going to probably get raped and murdered. That's the narrative that they need to put out. And they're not going to talk about the truth and the realities of what's actually happened in the country, like the truth about how black people are getting slaughtered by police. You have to go to real news sources to find that, and the real news sources, you're going to find them online, and then you're going to have to do the fucking homework yourself, and you're going to find out what's really going on in this country. Unless you are willing to do that, most of the country is watching Fox News, which puts out propaganda, and they believe it. They believe it wholeheartedly. My dad was a fucking liberal his whole life. Became a conservative when he moved down to North Carolina. I thought he was a real conservative. I thought I was raised as a real conservative. And then now I see all these real conservatives embracing Russia. I mean, I literally see conservatives wearing pro-Russia shirts now. It's fucking disgusting. Anything to piss off a libtard.
I was at an anti-Trump rally, and I saw Republicans with I'd rather be in Russia.
Yeah, like it's I'd rather vote in Putin than Hillary. Some shit like that. Like, it's fucking nuts.
Once again, education. Again, it's education. And when people say, I'm so tired of
it's not real republicanism. Like, republicanism is about being American. Like,
no, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that it is Republican. I'm saying that it's about education. It's about knowing.
Yeah.
When they say Russia, I'd rather be in Russia. They don't have a clue.
They don't understand. Like, and that's why, like, it's become really perplexing when you actually do run across somebody that's a true conservative, a true right-wing person that knows their positions, like Sokka count. Sokka is one of the most brilliant arguers. I don't think anybody can argue that. And he's very right-wing. The first time I ever went into a political conversation with him, it's like hitting a brick wall, because you're used to these American conservatives that have completely sold out their positions, and then you run into a real right-wing person like Sokka who will defend their positions and make you look stupid for not doing so. It is frustratingly sweet in a way. Like you wish for a return of that to America. Honestly, you really do.
Right, but he doesn't use fake information. Sokka's very strong about what he feels and about what he knows. That's the greatest thing you can have. Our system needs two parties. And people like Sokka are the great backboard. I've spoken to him quite a few times.
Well, and
when
to be
Von
honest,
Hilton puts us in jail, he wants to be my roommate.
Well, and to be honest, I I feel as though, honestly, the two-party binary, I don't think it's really serving America all that well anymore. I think we do need more parties to represent the diversity of political opinion here. Obviously, the system is practically designed around two parties, so it would require major reform, but I do think we need representation for, like, centrist positions. I think we need representation for the further left and right positions so that people don't feel like they're selling their souls when they have to vote for someone.
I honestly think that we need, like, 10 or 12 parties, and I would really love to see our Congress, like, go to fisticuffs like Parliament does overseas.
Hey, do y'all have a show tomorrow?
No. Tomorrow I work.
If you want to have a show tomorrow, I'll tell you what. I've got an idea that I believe will work, and I'd love to be able to tell you all about it. But my
we can
phone's
definitely
gonna die
schedule
again.
a show. We can definitely.
I'm telling you, and I can tell you how to get a two-party system to work to where everybody is getting what they want and what they need.
I mean, I'm down to listen to a two-party system, but can we still have a Congress to where, like, I could see, like, you know, like Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders get into a fist fight?
No, that happens on the state level all the time.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
it
watch
does.
the London Parliament, them motherfuckers be brawling.
That happens on
just
the
turn on
state
your
level all
local.
the time.
Hey, go to your commerce when they have their
I have been
I go all the
involved in some
time.
local political brawls myself. I will admit.
Oh yeah,
You know, local politics. I think that's the
local's
one
a
thing we
trip.
should leave the stream like screaming at the top of our lungs. Is local politics are more important than national politics. If you want to affect the community you're living in, fucking pay attention to your local politics. Go to those fucking meetings, and yeah, you might see some fistfights. You might be involved in a fist fight.
Oh,
You
yeah.
might go to jail. It's all good.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
part of the process.
You might end up being
I've
the one
been in a
trying to stop a
couple-
fist fight.
Hey, I have
I've
to
done
say,
that.
In a fist fight. I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm put it out there.
Local politics.
Well,
is
I'm a
fun.
loudmouth, so I get in a lot of arguments. So, and I enjoy it. So,
Me too.
I
I
have
think
my
argument
points.
is the fabric of our society, and when we lose that, you know, when we don't have fair arguments, you know, and that's the thing about what Trump's doing. He just lies all the time, and that's like it's not a fair argument anymore. When you have fair arguments, that's the fabric of a healthy society.
yes, it is.
Mhm.
In more ways than you could ever think. They allow the exchange of ideas. They allow the exchange of belief structures.
So
You don't have the same. Go ahead.
I was just
I
gonna
agree.
say,
I agree.
we're on our last 5 minutes, guys. Since you said that you wanted to go no more than 2 hours, and we're starting to cut into ham it out, so we're sort of bleeding our
Yeah, I
audience at
know.
the moment.
What are you gonna do something tomorrow?
Probably not because Notka's working, but we can schedule around his next day off if you like. You've got his email. You guys can probably
Well,
chat.
we can schedule something for Sunday sometime because I think Sunday's open. I know, but it would have to be later because I'm going to be filming super late Saturday night with Utah Outcast, so I'll be sleeping fairly late, and then I got to watch my Lions probably lose again because we're heartbroken and our spirits fucking shattered, and we have no chance of ever winning a game again now. But putting all that aside, after that game, I could probably do a stream on Sunday.
You are a
You
true
might be
fan,
able to,
Notka.
if you send Von Hilton $5 and ask his gods to help you. Maybe he can do something.
Von Helton absolutely hates me now. He doesn't even come and troll in my streams anymore just because I make him look so stupid. But I got kicked out of Brett Keen's stream one time, cussing out Von Helton. It was beautiful.
Every single one of my sock accounts is blocked by Brett Keane.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wearing
That-
a drunken
that
peasant
manatee-
shirt right now. I like trolling him. See the manatee?
That-
One if I land.
Yeah,
two if
that
I see.
manatee.
3 is for the manatee.
He's an idiot. He's something else. I
So-
tell you.
Yeah, he is.
We're on
Oh,
we're
he's
on
so
the
much
last
fun.
3 minutes at this point. Do we want to start doing closing statements and plugs and such for those of you that still have channels?
Yeah,
or
closing
maybe making
statements
guest
and,
appearances?
And yeah, like Sunday afternoon, I'd love to have another stream. We can do something. It is Allie's day off though, so I can't promise she'll be there. But
Yeah, there's about a 50% chance I'll be there on any given Sunday, depending on like when Dana's working and how like selfish the guys are being.
But yeah, closing statements, and we can get out of here so I can go to sleep, wake up, take my daughter to school in the morning. I promised an after show on Discord, guys. That will come back. But I think with the shift in the show, and yeah, I think we'll do it. We'll start it again next week. I'm trying to get the show
you've got
back
my
on a
email
regular
now.
schedule. So what?
You got my email, so you have my email now, so you can.
Yeah, I'll email you tomorrow, and we'll come up with the specifics. And yeah, it can be any time, probably after 5 Eastern, because by then the Lions will have
And
lost.
if Wilson's out there, I'm sorry, Wilson's out there. I'd like him if he could be on it too.
Oh yeah, they've been on before. They can come on anytime.
Well, he's suing me, so.
Oh God.
He's suing you?
That's a joke.
Oh.
So Air, Rilla, do you guys have any closing statements? Like on the Kurdish conflict, on the discussion about Trump and us pulling out, any of that?
I was just going to say, thanks for having me on. I was so not prepared for this tonight.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. Like, Nock and I have been talking about doing a physical and mental disability stream and sort of talking about the struggles that people face. And you are on the planned guest list. Like, I've been pushing for that for a while.
Yeah, this was a bit impromptu. I was actually planning on letting PigPuncher talk a lot. So yeah, when shit happens, you just kind of got to go on the fly.
Awesome. I will start doing research for that then for you guys.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll let you know. We're working on getting the next 2 or 3 months of streams sort of planned out with like guests and such. And we're planning on doing a few small rooms. So as soon as I get a date from Nock, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I've done a lot of planning actually already. So I actually need to get with you, Ali, and
Go over it.
coordinate it and go over our dates. I'm trying to talk to my boss this weekend about getting Mondays back to be a permanent, definite day off for the show. So hopefully some stability will be coming back. And I'm also, me and Ali will be talking about like I think it's an obvious direction that I want to go with the show, but just a basic concept that I think will apply. So that will be coming, and I want to figure out how to get a fucking intro on StreamYard. I'm getting really aggravated.
Have people been putting intros in StreamYard? I've never seen one yet.
Oh, it is pissing me off. No, I don't know. I don't even know if it's possible, and I hate it if it's not.
I don't think it is.
Yeah. Oh God, it's driving me nuts.
The question is, can you run StreamYard and OBS at the same time?
No, I've tried that. It doesn't work.
So, Shay, I know that you don't have a channel anymore, but do you have any sort of appearances that you've got coming up you'd like to talk about?
Nothing planned.
Well, you're always welcome here, Shay.
Oh, yeah. Like, I went on Jill's channel, and I think I schooled him on systemic racism. That was kind of fun. And I was on Richard Madsen's show for about 10 minutes. That was fun, too. And I'm here. I'm always here.
Richard is doing.
You guys know this is where I like to hang out. Most of the people in the chat right now are regulars.
Yeah. You'll always have a home here. And Richard Madsen has been doing some pretty decent work. I'm fairly impressed with the work he's doing.
I'm like completely blown away by like what Richard Madsen's doing right now. I had like I'll admit I didn't get a really good first impression and thought he was kind of, but he's fucking brilliant. He's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, his ideas are out there, but he's thought them out, and man, he is not afraid to step into the frying pan. Yeah,
he just like went up against like the whole team of Atheist Edge and like stood his ground. It was kind of interesting.
Oh, I gotta check that out. Yeah, I gotta check that out.
Hey, y'all, I got 2% left. I'm fixing to get booted.
I will email you, Big C.
Do you want to give a closing statement?
Let me just say this real quick. If you don't like the way things are going, get out and get facts. Call your congressmen, your senators, and crawl up their ass. That's the only way things change.
We pushed that herd at the end of our last
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on.
Don't forget to vote, too.
Yeah, thank you, Big C. Yeah, thank you, and we agree wholeheartedly.
Oh, and it looks like battery died. Well, thank you so much again, folks in the chat. Yet another plugs for Sticks and Stonehenge. Unfortunately, last week I ended up having lunch with an ally of this particular channel when we were supposed to stream. So the Kurdish discussion from a pagan perspective is actually going to happen next week on Sticks and Stonehenge on Wednesday at 9 p.m. EST. So if you guys aren't subscribed over there, you should be. You're in for quite a treat. We're going to be talking about a number of different things regarding the Kurdish genocide, and we're going to be focusing specifically on sort of the religious aspect of it, the conflicts that have gone on between the Kurds and the Shia leadership of these other countries, and sort of the struggle that they're currently facing.
Yeah, and I am actually planning on having a stream rather soon with ex-Muslims talking about what's going on in Syria with the Kurds right now as myself.
All right, so with that, I hand it back to you, Nock, to close out.
Yep, guys, thank you guys so much for coming. I know it's been a fairly low turnout, but a lot of stuff going on tonight. So yeah, we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go check out a little bit of Hammered Out, and I'm going to bed. Discord after shows will be coming back next week, and I think I want to do a recorded after show soon. So me and Allie's gonna get together. We're gonna start scheduling out these streams and start inviting people accordingly. And thank you guys so much for coming, and we will see you later.